everything else being gone. This guy comes up to him and says, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the four corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead. And I'm the only one who has escaped to tell you." I don't know about you, but I expect, had all that happened to me in one day, I would be feeling awful. I don't even know if that's the right word. Angry, sad, confused, definitely not in any mood to persevere. Oh yeah, well, I'll just keep going. I won't quit, I'm not gonna give up, I just lost everything. My whole family's dead, I'm gonna keep going, of course. That is exactly what I think I should do. For Job, I expected that he would have given up. I don't think he would have even acknowledged the word perseverance. I don't think anyone in this room would have blamed him for that. And so I'm pretty sure the story goes on, and his wife and some of his friends, they're confused too. They're like, "Why didn't you give up? Curse God and die." Great advice. I hope that they never are my friends and family. Curse God and die. And so I, just like everyone else in this book, and you guys probably, we just expected him to lay down and wait for death, to give up, to quit on God, on life, on himself, on his family, on his friends, whatever's left. He was just like, "I'm out." But this is what the Bible says. At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. I wouldn't do that. But he fell to the ground in worship and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." He literally praised God anyway, saying, "No matter what happens, it doesn't matter what I have, God, I know that I only need you." And so he persevered with God, with his faith, his relationship with his Father. He did not give up, not even close. I think it would have been helpful for him to have this verse when he was going through all this. A friend of mine reminded me of it this week. It comes from 1 John 4 and 5, and it says, "For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith." Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. We are overcomers. Over our situations, we are perseverers, if that's a word. We have that power because of Jesus Christ. Because we believe that Jesus is the Son of God, we can persevere. We can not quit. We can keep going. We don't give up. And so I came across this fact as I was researching my sermon this week. And I thought it was really interesting. Apparently, since the 1800s, that word perseverance has actually lessened. People don't use it as much anymore. And I wonder why. Is that an indication of who we are as people? Do we give up more often now? I don't know. I'm not accusing. I had to ask myself that same question. But do we know how to persevere? Do we know that we can? Do we realize the importance of staying that course, even if it's difficult? So I'm going to ask you again. Is there something or someone that you've given up on? Maybe, just maybe, that you shouldn't have. Maybe from that list before, it was some kind of relationship or person, or yourself or God. Maybe some of you are sitting here nodding along, and you're agreeing with the things that I'm saying, and you understand understand the importance of not giving up, but it took every last bit of strength that you had just to get here this morning. I don't know. And so a few weeks ago, Pastor Tim was talking about changing our story. And he said changing our story might look a little bit like deciding to do something different with our lives that we know needs to be done. And maybe in those messages you made a choice. And you were so certain and so sure, you're like, this is the turnaround for me. This is it. This is where things start to go differently. This is where I'm not going to give up this time. And you walked out those doors, and life just happens. It does. And it keeps pushing you down. So maybe you're hearing what I'm saying this morning, but you've tried and failed to make a change so many times that you're thinking, what is the point? You think, I've been here before, I know how this story ends. There's no point in me starting over again. Yes, there is. I'm telling you that right now. Because I want to tell you something. And this is something that Pastor Tim and I, as we talked about my sermon, we came to this conclusion together that God is okay with you fighting that battle over and over. And students, I want you to listen to this especially. God is okay with you fighting that battle over and over again. But He really just doesn't want you to give up trying. I don't care how many times you make the same mistake. For everyone here, keep going, persevere, don't quit. Don't quit. Just keep fighting. So how can we persevere? Because, yes, it's important. But how do we do it? And you've heard my story, and you've heard Job's, and you've probably seen countless people push through their own set of trials. And maybe it doesn't even seem to faze them, or, maybe it does. So how did they do it? How did Job do it? How do you keep going when you don't have the strength? So I'm going to give you 3 things. I know, shocking for a pastor to have 3 points in some kind of sermon. But number one, it's simple. You just push yourself back up. You fall down, and you get back up. No matter how many times life pushes you down, pushes you up, pushes you down 7 times, you get back up. 8. You just keep going. You just keep going. You refuse to quit. Refuse. And just like I said, please remember that God understands our battle. He understands that life is really awful sometimes, but He wants to help us through it. He doesn't mind. He just doesn't want us to give up the fight. So for as many times as God prompts you to change or to try again, to fight again, to push yourself up, do it. Persevere. Push yourself back up. And so the next thing is a pretty obvious one. It works in most situations. I like it. You just pray. You pray. Or the other side of that is you kind of take a nap. Because sometimes you can pray, and then you still realize that you're really tired and you don't really have the energy to go on, so you take a little power nap. I promise you, there are so many times in my life when I've gone home at the end of the day and I've said, okay, maybe when I wake up, this will all seem a little bit more manageable. Rest. Rest is important. Prayer works. So you're thinking you're too tired? Rest. You don't have the strength? Ask God for the strength. The Bible says to us that in our weakness, Christ is strong. So that's amazing. I would much rather have God's strength pushing behind me than my own, because my own is pretty unreliable at most times. Pray and rest. And then the last point is to phone a friend. The story of Trent helping me persevere is just one of the many times that people have helped me. And whether they knew it or not. And like I said, Pastor Tim and Bonnie and Ange and Naomi and countless other people have helped me on my journey. And there are people who want to help you. Myself, Pastor Tim, Bonnie, everybody. This church is your family. We want to help you. And in the times when you can't push yourself back up, and praying turns out to be a few words where you don't even know if it made sense, and you're like, God, I hope you heard that, and then you just fall asleep. Or phoning a friend to give you that strength, to give you that person physically beside you, saying, come on, I got you. Did anyone see Lord of the Rings? Okay, so I love those movies. There's this part in the movie, and it's at the end, and the fate of the world is resting on this character's little tiny shoulders. He's a hobbit, so he's short. And it's up to him to save the world. And he can't. He's so close to the end. He's so close to really just finishing and saving everybody. But he can't. He can't take one more step. He's tired, probably hungry, just has no more strength left in him. Luckily, he's got his friend beside him, and his friend says to him, you know what, I can't carry your burdens, but I can carry you. And I just thought, as a movie lover, I was like, man, that's good. But it's so true. You have friends here. They can't take your burdens from you, but they can definitely support and care for you and carry you. So maybe you don't feel like you have friendships like that, but we're here for you. This church is here for you. I can guarantee that. We are a family in this church, and we want to carry you when you can't go on yourself. So I'm going to ask the worship team to come back up and to play softly. And just remind you of those things.